Yeah, they hate when you elevate. They stacking up losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. Yeah, they hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, yeah. I had to elevate. I'm way too fly. Yeah, I'm feeling myself. Ain't no chance I'm coming down, no. Got a soul view to myself, yeah. Why would I give it up? Why do they wanna come take my place? I work too hard for it, don't need a replacement. This my vocation. Now I got rollies all in rotation. Hop on a jet just to take a vacation. Remember the moments was trapped in the basement. Now the hard work is all taking me places. Swatting all black like we trapped in the matrix. Bet on myself and go ball out in Vegas. Living a life like I'm rich and I'm famous. Don't see the grind that I know that it came with. Oh.
Yeah.
I had to set them straight, yeah. I had to boss, I had to renovate. I know they hate when you elevate. They stacking up losses, I'm handing them out, yeah. I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment. I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly. I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. Yeah, they hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, yeah. I had to elevate. Ooh, yeah. Why they wanna put me down?
What's up? While y'all coming in the building, are we gonna build on it today?
I didn't know.
We gonna talk about it.
Make sure the fashion right, yeah. I'm in my bag tonight, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I might just pull up before it. Watch out, the engine is roaring. It's too loud, you can ignore it. Yeah, yeah. This that highlights for the view. You get to have it on the
Salute to everybody in the building. I guess we could do a quick little roll call. We got like 10 people in the building. I know we're gonna creep in. I know how that goes. It's the morning time, so I know the competition is lit. But shout out to Chris Book in the building, here for boxing, fly frequency in the building. Shout out to 4KZ. You damn right the old man got up early, man. Yeah, I got the oldies. I got the coffee in, you know what I'm saying? This morning we did the everything bagel with the whipped cream cheese. Pause just in case, you know what I mean? I might have crossed some lines there, but it was, you know what I'm saying? Breakfast is in. We good. We got the caffeine up. You know what I mean? So we on. Shout out to the great Gambino in the building. Yeah, we on early, man. Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Somewhere around 10 or 10:30. We're gonna be popping up talking about it. Everybody else doing it. Shout out to the GOAT 95 in the building. You know what I mean? Building. What up, yo? What up, yo? Was goody. Man, we got to build on it, man. Crazy weekend of boxing. And if you guys didn't catch my Sunday live, we talked about it, right? We had a decent little panel. And shout out to the community is growing, man. Like the community really is growing. I'm trying to be part of something special, you know what I mean? That's bringing back World Championship boxing, right? Talking about boxing across the whole entire boxing space, not just about one boxer or one promotional company. And I think a lot of people are jumping onto that, man. That's real good music to my ears, you know what I mean? So I'm going to keep trying to push that. But now, you know, the weekend's gone. Everybody's had their opportunity to speak on it. And, you know, obviously there's so much drama surrounding weekends like this, right? Because this was a special weekend of boxing because it really was revealing in a lot of ways of certain fighters, what we thought of them, what we thought their future would be. And it was a lot of also because of that, there was a lot of new fights that people want to see now. A lot of new questions that people want answered. A lot of new boxes that people want checked, right? We've seen Keeshawn Davis have the performance he did. And if anybody had questions about Keeshawn Davis and what he was going to bring to the game, I think this weekend brought those answers, right? People have a lot more questions now, though, right? That's what happens when the questions get answered, more questions come up now, right? So we see Keyshawn Davis be one of the top guys at 135 pound now, as far as we're concerned. Exciting fighter, great with the social media, right? Getting a momentum right now, and then pushing the right buttons, right? Knock, 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 right? we're going to talk about it, right? And then we saw Jaron Boots Ennis, a future pound for pound great, a lot of people would have said. And I think, it's unfair to take away all his accolades, but I think without a question, and we're going to talk about it, potential holes in his game, and not just from one fight. Contrary to popular belief, it's not just about one fight, right? It's about consistently seeing something that's happening with Jaron Boots Ennis, and even with his coaching or training from Bozy Ennis, and it raises questions because once it's time for Jaron Boots Ennis to step up the game, and people look, it's not that Jaron Boots Ennis chose not to step up his game, or that people are painting this picture like his fights have all been tailor-made and cherry-picked for him to look great. It's not necessarily that. When you got a fighter like Jaron Boots Ennis, when he's at that stage where he's a high risk, low reward, it's hard to get him those fights, right? But nonetheless, until Jaron gets those fights, we don't know who we're dealing with. And this is what we talk about in boxing every day, right? When we talk about Gervonta Tank Davis fighting the best in his division, fighting his peers, fighting the champions, we want to see him unify. It's because we want to see him tested, right? Whether that's a win, whether that's a loss, whether you hate Tank and you want to see him lose, or whether you love Tank and you want to see him win, either way, it shouldn't get in the way of wanting to see him tested, because it's going to confirm it one way or the other. And until that happens, we don't know. And, with Jaron Boots Ennis, it does seem as if, as the competition has been getting a little bigger, although he's come nowhere near losing, it does seem like there's some holes in his game. And you start to match him up with the elite in the sport, right? You start to think about him against Terrence Crawford, somebody who everybody's been screaming to see him fight against, or Sebastian Fundora, or Bakram Murtalazayev, or any of these fighters, Virgil Ortiz. Now you start to think, man, if Karen can take advantage of these holes, what happens if these other fighters take advantage of these holes? And what does that look like for Jaron Boots Ennis? We're going to talk about that as well. Turki Alalshikh also speaking. When he speaks, the whole boxing space listens. Some people like to call him the face of boxing today. He's bringing back the sport in a great way. Purchases he's made and plans he has for the future of boxing, very interesting. And going into a weekend, of course, where Turkey's going to be putting on the Latino night, right? We have some great fights lined up on that card. We'll try to get into that as well. That might go into tomorrow, because I'm not going to do a 4-hour marathon today with you guys. And of course, with Jaron Boots Ennis's performance, with the kind of performance that Jaron Boots Ennis had, questions start coming up. But at the same time, the Sharks smell blood in the water, right? And people who weren't necessarily screaming to fight Jaron Boots Ennis may be getting a little bit more confident about their chances against the Phenom, right? And of course, they're going to put their 2 cents into it. The boxing space is reacting. It's moving. It's great time to be a content creator in the boxing spaces. There's so much to talk about. Opinions one way or the other, right? But it doesn't matter. All content in this case scenario is good content. It is what it is. I think we got a couple more people popped up in the building, man. Shout out to Selector Styles in the building. Shout out to 82 in the building. 4K Zay says Turkey tried to work against Canelo. He's not the face. The face beat him out in pay-per-view of the UFC event. He supported out of spite. No doubt, 4K. I think there's multiple faces of boxing, right? When it comes to the actual boxing, Canelo holds that down. But I do think that, and I'm being, obviously I'm being a little sarcastic and facetious a little bit when I say Turkey's the face of boxing. But a lot of people are saying that because, let's be honest, he's moving the needle. He's bringing us the fights, and he's showing us a way to the fights that we want to see. Now, everybody's not going to embrace Turkey, right? Everybody's not going to embrace his presence. They're not going to embrace him, but I choose not to act like I don't see the difference he's making in the sport. He's made world championship boxing very interesting, exciting again. He's bringing fighters from across the pond to fighters in America. He's giving them a playing field, facilitating a space to where we can get those questions answered. Instead of having imaginary fights in our mind and saying that this is how the fight's going to go, we actually get an opportunity to see a lot of these fights happen. And it's actually been interesting, we got to be honest, seeing it come together, right? Seeing these fights come together. I thought it was interesting to see Nick Ball take a title away from Raymond Ford, right? It was interesting to see Jaron Anderson get knocked out by Martin Bacoli. right? It made you ask questions about what a lot of fighters are going to look like in front of each other. We're going to get a lot of questions answered in the coming year or two when it comes to that, because Turki's going to be there to facilitate the biggest fights. Looks like we're going to get questions potentially answered about what Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz looks like against each other. Would we have seen that before? Maybe. I don't know, but he's definitely adding to the game. You know what I mean? Shout out to Here for Boxing. We got a super chat in the building. Got some color in the chat, man. Show the homie some super chat love today for this high quality convo. Allow me to start it off, even a little 99 cents, because he ain't gonna ask for it. You right here for boxing. I ain't gonna ask for it, man. I appreciate the love, man. Yeah, guys, definitely feel free to put something in the chat. Make sure that your computer's working properly and that the super chat's working is working. Just to make sure, you can put $1 in there, but you could definitely throw a lot more than that too as well. I appreciate you here for boxing. Thank you, King. Thank you, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about it all, man. Let's see. Where do we start at? The weekend was a great weekend. I don't want to. Let's see what we got here. I don't care if you leave. Yeah. Yo, here for boxing. You hilarious, bro. You're hilarious. Well, let's start off with Turkey, right? Let's start off with the news that Turkey's come out with. Turkey came out, and I'm going to read it verbatim. You guys can read it too. Earlier this week, he says he's finalized a deal to acquire 100% of Ring Magazine. I didn't even know Ring Magazine was for sale, but I mean, I'm sure it's in good hands right now. And I want to make a few things clear. The print version of the magazine will return immediately after a 2-year hiatus. It will be available in the U.S. and the UK markets. The magazine will be fully independent with brilliant writers and focusing on every aspect in the sport of boxing. We're going to restore the legacy of Rank Rankings to its old mechanism with a fully independent panel that lives up to Ring Magazine's golden era. We will continue to raise the prestige of the Ring titles. The plans are already underway to have a yearly extravagant award ceremony to celebrate the very best in the boxing industry. In the coming weeks, we intend to debut a brand new state-of-the-art website, mobile app. We are ready for development for a line of Ring Magazine merchandises. The Ring Magazine will be fully independent company without any involvement from Riyadh season. In the end, let's get the Bible of boxing. Let me read this bottom part right here. I gotta move this. Let's get the Bible of boxing to the heights it's never seen in the past. Awesome. I mean, personally, me guys, I know a lot of people, want to get territorial about it. It's an American platform, and it's a shame that it's gone, but it is what it is, man. I always push back at the idea that boxing is in one country. It is owned by one country, right? It's owned. It's an international sport. It's a unique sport within itself, being that people from all around the world compete. They bring their international backgrounds. They bring their nationality for their countries, their flags. They represent. It's like a big Olympics 24/7 with boxing. So, look, if somebody over here in the States isn't going to hold it down and move the needle, then I'm happy that we have a billionaire, a budget as big as what Saudi Arabia brings to the table, getting behind Ring Magazine, behind something foundational in the sport that way, and highlighting the very best in the sports, the accolades, the people who earn legacy, giving incentive to the boxers in the space to be their best and to fight against the best, knowing that there is a big, huge stage, an ultimate stage at some point in time that you are going to be celebrated on, and it used to hold prestige, and hopefully it'll hold prestige again. It'll bring back legacy to boxing, which is something you guys know I push for, because as a fan, I don't care about what the boxers get paid. I don't care about how many seats are filled in a stadium. I don't benefit off of that. I'm here for the experience of watching legacy come together, right? I'm here for that experience. So I'm happy, excited, completely. I can't hold it together. I'm ready to explode thinking about what Ring Magazine has for the future, right? So shout out to Turkey and all them guys. What we got going on here? Oh, Shalak. Oh, says Shalak. Shout out to Select the Styles in the building. Put a $1.99 in the chat. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you for the love, man. Everything helps. We're trying to do great things, bigger things. Much love to Select Styles. We got T. Orlando in the building. T. Orlando, long time no see, brother. Legacy is relative. T. Orlando, we're gonna agree to disagree. But I hear you, man. I hear you. Right? 8 in the building. Shout out to 8 in the building. Shout out to Kauai Ella in the building. Yeah. Yeah, man. Fly frequency in the building as well, man. Yeah, man. So it's great to hear that Turki Alalshikh is doing that and constantly sounding like and looking like he's pushing forward to bring some attention to boxing. And like I said, it benefits the fan base of boxing the most. So I'm always going to support that movement. He's helped come out with a video game, Undisputed, put on a lot of great events this year, unified 2 divisions. We can only imagine what 2025 is going to look like. I'm excited and looking forward to see what he puts together. Obviously excited about the fights we got going into this weekend as well. And we're going to talk about that as well, hopefully, as we get more time to it. So let's move on. The card was a great card this weekend. 2 cards, actually, Friday and Saturday. We watched a lot of boxing. If you were a boxing fan, you had the itis, right? Because you was full on boxing. You ate more boxing than you probably could handle, right? You were sitting on the couch, drooling out the side of your mouth. You know what I'm saying? You just like full of boxing, and boxing was great, and the fights delivered, right? We got all the controversy. We got great stoppages. We got some fighters that were exposed in some levels. We seen some fighters that we saw moving the needle in the future, prospects moving in the future, like Abdullah Mason, who put on a performance this weekend that, you know, he never falls short, right? Abdullah Mason never falls short to deliver on what we want to see, which is great boxing. But although he got a little adversity. For the first time, we seen Abdullah Mason deal with a little bit of adversity in a fight, and we seen him get put down twice in the fight, right? Now, he wasn't laid out on his back or anything like that, but, you know, he was getting clipped with a lot of shots that maybe he shouldn't have been getting clipped, and he actually, for the first time, probably showed a lot of his novice that the reason why he's a prospect. You can see that he was making young mistakes, right? Mistakes that a young fighter would make, and somebody like him seeing all of the success that he's seen so far, knocking his last 5 fights, knocking these dudes out inside of 3 rounds, you can get comfortable. You can get lulled into some comfort, and it looks like he got a wake-up call. Right, he got a wake-up call. He got put down, but he ultimately ended up ending the fight. Some people want to throw him away and say, I knew he wasn't that. But I think if you want to be fair about it, it's a process. Abdullah Mason still prospect of the year. Still looking forward to see what he does next year. You have him right now matched up, beating some of the best fighters at 135 still. I don't care who you are. It is what it is, right? But now he gets to go back to the blue. He actually gets to come from a fight and go back home with his family, and they actually have something to process and talk about, right? Lull over and saying, yo, this was an actual hole. Is this a hole in our game? We have to address it. We can't allow this to happen. We have fighters who are way more high-level pedigree than Johan Vasquez, I believe his name was. Don't quote me. And we don't want to get in front of those fighters and make those same mistakes. So he gets to grow, and that's what you hope to see with a prospect like Abdullah Mason. You see how active they've kept him. You know, you want to see him get those rounds in, get that experience in, and have something to work on. And I think he's in great hands. One of the best things I love about Abdullah Mason is what he brings to the table as far as his family. I love that family structure around Abdullah Mason. He looks like there's a lot of honesty there, spiritual grounding there, right? Alhamdulillah, he has his father there with him. He has all his brothers there with him. And inshallah, he's gonna develop into one of the best fighters, into a generational talent. You know, I have no fears about the guidance that he's getting and the advice that he's getting and the honesty that he's dealing with in his camp. And because of that, I expect great things from Abdullah Mason, man. A great weekend of boxing for Abdullah Mason. We'll see what happens. Let me try to keep up as well a little bit with the chat here. What we got in here? Bop, 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 bop. Salute to Ross Clot in the building. That's my brother. Always building, always engaging, always got something to say. And like I said, I gave him a name, Mr. Your favorite boxer's a bum. That's what he needs. You need to put that under your name, by the way, Ross Carr. I see you put like a 40 and L, all that, man. I mean, F all that. You know what I'm saying? What your real name is, I'm telling you, your real name is Mr. F, your favorite boxer, bro. Your favorite boxer's a bum. Mr. Your favorite boxer's a bum, man. That's your name, Ross Carr. Shout out to Chris Brooks in the building as well. Chris, what you got for me, man? Chris said he got a question for me. I hope it's a good question, Chris. Let's see what you got going on here. Let me find you, brother. Let me find you. Where you at? I got a question for you, Claymore Rain from the youth. In your opinion, how do we get these fights we want as fans? Oh, Chris, man, great question, bro. And that's what this episode today is going to be talking a lot about, that, brother, because as boxing fans, our job is to push for the best fights, right? And I think this era of boxing is a unique era, man. In my opinion, a unique era to me, right? Growing up, I grew up around OGs, you want to call them, my uncles and, my uncle's friends and my grandfather, and they were always pushing for the biggest fights, right? I never seen them in circles speaking about how much fighters were getting paid, what's fair, what's unfair, A side, B side privileges. I never really heard them talk about that. I'm sure they brought it up before. Like, I'm sure got rest in peace to my grandfather, the great Paul Basile, the general. I'm sure if he was sitting here right now, he'd be like, Clay, we talked about those things a little bit, but I would say it was so insignificant that I don't remember it. What I really mostly remember is them looking for those big fights to come together. And when they came together, I remember the excitement that they had. Even as a young kid, I didn't understand the excitement, but as you get older and you have hindsight, you start to realize that seeing the best fight and the best was like you were part of history. It was about the legacy. It was about getting those questions answered. And they never had those questions answered before the fights actually happened. They were always looking for the fight to happen to get the answers. And I think today's boxing fan they have a lot of boxing matches in their head, and it satiates them because of the natural impulse to for instant gratification. We get over fights before they even happen, right? So you have a lot of fans that see fighters fight in their brain, and then it's like they bust that nut. Pause. They bust that nut, and they don't even have the hunger to see the fight no more. And when they talk in these chats and they're debating each other, they speak as if the fight's already happened. So to your question, how do we move and get the fights we want as fans? We push, man. We push for the matchups. We don't talk about their money. We don't talk about A side, B side privileges. In other words, to keep it even more simple, we don't disvalue the fight. We don't discredit the fight. When a fighter is motivated to fight another fighter, and we know there's two skilled fighters in there, we push for it to happen. We don't say, what has he done to earn it? We don't say, oh, he doesn't put enough butts in the seats. We don't say, man, that guy right there, he only got X amount of fights. No, we push and we get behind the most exciting fights that are possible for us to be out there on. And we get on the same page when it comes to that. We don't have to be fans of the same fighters, right? But we should be all on the same page of wanting to see these fighters fight each other. If you're in a room where you're on one side of an argument for a fight for one fighter, and there's a whole other side of the argument on the other side for another fighter, the only true solution, the only way to come to an actual understanding what's going to happen is if we push those fighters to fight each other. That's where it should end at. And I don't see that happening enough in the sport. And I see actually a whole lot of the opposite happening in the sport today, especially in this content creation space. And I think that's why we're not seeing the fights we want to see, because I believe the boxers have no true vested interest. They're not getting pushed back hard enough by the fan base to give us the best fights. So you'll see the weakest matchups getting put together. And because of that, a lot of boxing fans, especially the casual fans, the new fans of boxing who come in, they get a little discouraged by what they're seeing because they're not seeing the best fight the best. So they may come in and play with the sport up front for like maybe a year or two, but after a while they end up going away to the UFC or going to other competitive sports because they're seeing the politics of the sport dominating the essence of the competitive nature of the sport, and they lose interest in the sport. So as content creators, I feel like that's our job, is to gather rooms like this. We got like 50 people up in here. I hope you guys hitting the likes. And we get that energy up. We speak up to fights. We push for fights. We don't talk negative towards fights. We push to see the best fight the best. So I hope that answered the question. It was long-winded, but that's why I do. That's why I got a microphone, right? It is what it is. Salute to everybody in the building. Let me see who else is in the building. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on right here, bro, in the chat. I love the chat's been so engaging for the past couple of weeks. I'm loving it, man. Man, let's see here. What do we got here? Chris Books, I hope I answered that question. Faced with adversity, Jay Cash the Money Man, he got that shit done. He ain't even looked stunned by the knockdown, just didn't respect them shots to have that much pop. 100% Jay Cash the Money Man. I'm assuming you're talking about Abdullah Mason, man. And you're right? He looked great and he didn't, but we're creatures of habits. And we're going to talk about that today as well, because what we saw with Jaron Boots Ennis this weekend, I believe kind of falls in line with what you're saying here from my perspective, because I think Jaron Boots Ennis has gotten comfortable fighting a certain way and taking certain risk. And we're creatures of habit. And the fear for Jaron Boots Ennis isn't what happened against Karen necessarily, because he won, right? He dominated that fight in multiple ways, although Karen was way more competitive than people thought he'd be. But the fear is he's going to take that mindset and those habits into way more dangerous fights. And we don't want to see Jaron falling because of some mistakes like that. So it is what it is. Oh, I got my co-host in the building. Let me bring him up, guys. Salute to Ray Davis in the building. Salute Ray Davis in the building.
Man, I love that morning.
I didn't know.
Let's go, family.
That morning rant was great, man. Like Chris, that was a great question, man. Great question. You got Clay on fire right now. He out here delivering. He delivering the bars like he dropping the album for real. That was crazy.
And
listen, I like everything.
But we got 46 people in the building. We had 50 at one point. Let's hit the likes, man. Let's get the likes up. Don't do your boy
Absolutely.
like that. Show some love, man.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, my bad.
Absolutely. I like everything you said, how you put it. You know what I mean? It's always some reason why. I'm not saying nobody's name no more. We're not allowed to say his name. So I'm gonna stick. That's and anybody that's a real boxing fan. We're not allowed to call this guy and say his name anymore. That's what they said. That's weird, right? It's weird. We can't say his name. All right, so I'm not saying his name. But the fact is, like you said, back in the day, that's what they did, Clay. They called everybody out, man, and it would go from there. You know what I mean? That hurt. I heard even this and to add to your point is, oh, you can't call him out if he got a fight lined up and you got a fight lined up and y'all know you. What do you mean? Isn't that the way boxing's always been? Didn't you see these guys standing at ringside?
Jackie Hernandez. Salute, Queen.
Salute to the Queen. Salute to the Queen.
Salute Monda Man Samusa. I'm sorry, bro. I try to keep up and show
love.
You
good. No, you good. You got 4K in there too. You know what I mean? Shout them out. Styles. Okay. Oh yeah. But yeah, I'm like, man, isn't that how they did it back in the day? Like, didn't they sit there and they be like, yo, I want to fight this guy next? Like, it didn't just come about. Like, didn't when Holyfield was saying he going for Mike, man, wasn't he calling him out on every chance he got? You know, on a different network. They ain't fight at the same time.
Well,
they have fights.
I honestly don't remember I don't remember the last time I saw somebody do what Shane did to Floyd, right? Like, you remember when fighters used to be waiting for the fight to be done with outside the ring and would walk into the ring? I think maybe Shakur tried to do it with Devin, but Devin didn't respond to it well. But, you know, that used to be how it worked, right? Like the best fighter showed up to your fight. He was outside the ring watching you. He was pointing at you. You know what I'm saying? You might acknowledge him. I can remember Terrence Crawford pointing at Errol Spence sitting out in the front row saying, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? We going fishing. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know who the next guy's supposed to be sitting right out there in the crowd. That's how it used to be, man.
That's how it's supposed to be. Right. What is going on, bro?
Fury. I think Fury walked in with Deontay, but yeah, man, like, you know.
Well, in all due respect, Clay, to you, I'm just going to say this. I think I figured it out, though. You ready for the answer? Are you ready? All right. So listen, y'all. Listen. This man got a lot of child support, bro. Because he got he got a lot of baby mamas out there that don't want him to make money with nobody. So he got more baby mamas than a little bit, bro. So he out there paying child support to these people because obviously they know what he doing, where he moving, where he can't talk, when he can talk, when he can jump up, when he can jump down. He ain't even got to ask, bro. He just on speed dial. Like, hey, can we do it today? Come on. Yo, I'm telling you, bro. Tank for child support, y'all.
Let me see. Selector Style said, and this is definitely comfortable doing what he's been doing. He better get uncomfortable doing that because it's gonna work out. It's not gonna work out for him in the future. Yeah, you're talking about I think he's talking about Jaron. You know what I'm saying? Jaron. But yeah, I mean, look, the game.
We talk about Tank. Free smoke. We just talk about Tank.
Nah, it don't matter. Who cares?
I know what he. I don't care. No, I'll say it. Tank Davis. No problem.
Yeah, it is what it is. So
I'm having fun with the way that people have incriminated everyone that mentions Tank's name if they're not fighting him. That is the reason why I didn't say his name. I don't really care, but you got it, brother.
Right. I got you, Free Smoke. You don't like the riddles. Got you. So, but pushing forward, right? Like I said, the weekend has wrapped up. I see a lot creation spaces, who've given their opinions on what happened during the weekend, and I see a lot of, that's what happens when you have weekends like this. When you have great matchups like you had this weekend, there's going to be controversy, and people are going to speak one way or the other. And I've shared my thoughts as well about the holes I thought were there in Jaron Boots Ennis's game. And I don't think there's something he can't fix, but I do think that that there's, and we saw what happened. A lot of other fighters, a lot of trainers, a lot of people have spoken to it, and there's blood in the water, which is good for Jaron Boots Ennis in multiple ways, because this is a guy who couldn't get a great fight for a long time, probably one of the most ducked fighters that I've seen in the longest time, just unable to get any real matchups. You know what I'm saying? And definitely when it comes to unifying belts and things of that nature. And with the performance he had on Saturday, maybe he looks a little bit more human, right? Maybe he looks a little bit more beatable now. Maybe he looks a little bit more flawed. And a lot of fighters now jumping up. Ryan Garcia came out and said that he would chin him. You know what I'm saying? And obviously Brian Norman Sr. came out, and he's back on his social media campaign, doing interviews, speaking on Jaron Ennis, which I have no problem with. I know a lot of people have a problem with that. They want him to be quiet, which, once again, I think this is the difference in this boxing space today, is that people are so impulsively triggered to defend a fighter's right to have peace and quiet, to not be challenged. And it's interesting because when somebody comes out and speaks about their favorite fighter, instead of being like, word, that's that energy I want. Yeah, that's a fight I want to see. I want to see somebody with that type of fire in their spirit fight my fighter, so that my fighter can show the world who they are. Instead, they shoot it down. They shoot at that guy. So Brian Norman Sr. coming out, doing his interviews, doing what I think he was supposed to do, because his son's name is attached to Jaron Boots Ennis. They did have a very complicated, messy negotiation a few months back. It didn't turn into a fight. It didn't manifest into a fight. The boxing space, in my opinion, was very upset and discouraged by the way that the negotiations went out, because I think the way Senior was talking on his social media campaign, and we know we wanted to see Jaron Boots Ennis do two things. A, we wanted to see him really challenge. B, we wanted to see him start unifying the belts. So we were very, very excited to hopefully get to see something like this, and it ended up falling to the wayside, and it looked like it wasn't going to happen. Even right now, we don't know if it's going to happen, because Jaron Ennis has put out information saying that he's thinking about going to 154, which is good, because like me and you, Ray, been screaming for him to go to 154. But I'm not going to lie to you, there's a little FOMO there. If there's a possibility for a fight between him and Brian Norman to happen, I kind of want that too, right? So mixed feelings about the whole situation, but I think Brian Norman Sr. is doing what he's supposed to do. People might not like it. He's not taking personal shots. He's not saying they're bad people, but he's letting it be known that he's even more confident right now than he was before that fight with Karen. He saw holes in Jaron Boots Ennis's before that he was calling out on, but then he got to see Karen expose it. So of course it's making him even more confident about what he can do with his son. And he seems to be excited about trying to make the fight happen. Now, he stated that he has a fight scheduled for late February, March, around that time. The fight he was supposed to be fighting that night on Keyshawn Davis.
Keyshawn card last week.
Right. But he's saying after that fight, not only is he interested in that fight happening, he said he's going to push for that fight to happen. What do you think about Brian Norman Sr.'s whole entire push right now and what he's doing on social media? Is it disgusting you? Are you disgusted?
No, again, we back to boxing, right? We back to now this the manager's call. No disrespect to Brian Norman, that's not him. I'm saying the fans are going a different way from what the managers want. Let that man put his name in the hat, man. That's what we're here for. We're here for the best to fight the best. This guy wants to unify. Obviously, Norman Jr. feels that he has a chance to beat Boots based on a great performance by Karen Keeshawn. Instead of saying, okay, well, we're not giving Karen Keeshawn enough credit, we're taking the credit away from Boots, who just was in the ring, and we're not used to seeing him like this. Bro, a fighter is two people in that ring, and we're taking credit away from one guy. You know what I mean? We're not giving credit to the guy that was on the opposite side. That's number one. So a lot of these guys gonna walk in that ring, they're gonna find themselves laid out, man. I think Boots is still that guy. I think he settled on the wrong things. I think he focused on cutting off the ring and staying close to in quarters to homie Karen Keeshawn, right? I think he decided to stay close quarters so he couldn't get away from him, right? That was his whole game plan. Karen, on the other hand, said, I'm going to use my feet. I'm going to shuffle. I'm going to get you off balance. And I'm going to throw strikes, left, right, uppercuts, and a couple of balls along the side paws. And you know what? There will be no walks today because you're going to have to come through this room and get a home run. And you're not. And when you get too crazy and I feel like you overwhelming, I'm going to take a knee like a veteran does, recoup, and I'm going to come right back at you. Yo.
Right.
He decided and people are not looking at it as the aspect, right? Boots also needs to change back to who he needs to be. He's faced so many people that he was able to touch up. He's comfortable with this showman style. And that showman style is going to get you hurt. And you know what? And hopefully he goes back to the lab. Hopefully he works on the jab and other things and taking his time, letting the fight come to him, making these guys feel comfortable and feel like they have a chance, and then going for the melee instead of going in there and going wild out. But as far as Brian Norman doing what he does, bro, listen, that's what he's supposed to do. Why is it a problem? You know what I mean? No, I don't get today's boxing world, Clay. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why is Brian Norman a problem? Because he pulled up the last fight because he was already under contract and they only had a certain amount of time to get that fight done? I mean, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, look, man, it's the business of boxing, man. And it's interesting to see people confront Brian Norman on his business acumen or what he decides to do as far as how he values his son or values the things that he's invested in. It's about making the fights happen. And I'm going to sit here and act like I wasn't disappointed to not see that fight happen. Of course I was. I'm a fan of boxing. I was disappointed in not seeing that fight because I really thought it was going to be a high level competition in the ring. But you know, the business sometimes has to come first. Most of the time has to come first. Any fight that you see today, the foundation of it was some decent business being done, some agreement of some sort outside of the ring. And until that happens, we can't, as fans, see inside of the ring happen. So we understand that. I'm not here to throw shots at any manager or trainer of fighters to say, oh, you should take less money, your fighter's only worth this much. That's not my business, man. I wish he would have taken the 1.7. Shoot, I wish he would have took whatever the first offer was. I just wanted to see the fight happen. But I'm not going to push back at him saying, no, my son's worth more than negotiate that. It is what it is. But yeah, no shots, no in boxing, unless the fighters are calling each other out, unless they're making these fights happen, they're not going to happen. You know, if you leave it up to the promoters, and that's another thing we're going to talk about as well. But if you leave it up to the promoters and the managers to match make for these fighters, you're not going to get the best fights. I'm trying to remember who said it. I believe it was Breadman on Mill City. Shout out to my brother, Mill City. We talk so much offline. Real smart guy, man, doing a lot of great things and got a lot of things planned for the boxing space too. Y'all don't even know about. He gonna go ham. But he had a conversation with Breadman, and Breadman said, listen, man, unless these fighters do what Errol Spence did with Terrence Crawford, we as fans aren't going to get the fights we want to see because it doesn't align with the matchmakers or the promoters' goals, right? It doesn't align with what they want to do is keep their fighter undefeated as long as possible. They want to build up a whole lot of drama behind the fighter. They want to raise the market value of that fighter, and a loss in a 50-50 or 60-40 competitive fight puts too much at risk on the table for that manager, that matchmaker, that promoter, that network. It's always up to the actual fighters to make the biggest fights possible. They have to direct their managers. They have to tell their promoters what it's going to be. They have to push back like Earl did. They have to say, no, I don't want no other fight but this fight. This guy's calling me out. He think it's sweet. I want to fight that guy. Now, everybody can't fight, right? We can't see a fighter just fight all the hardest fights possible. But at some point in time, when that fighter has that legacy fight, the big fight is going to take the fighter to get involved. The fighter's going to have to speak up. He's going to have to show interest. And especially when you're in an A side or face of boxing type space, in that privileged space, without that effort, because the reason it's going to take that effort is because when you're a face of boxing or when you're the A side, however you want to look at it, that means you get to move the needle as far as how the negotiations go. That fighter's manager is thinking about losing all that every time he puts him in the ring with somebody, right? He's like, I have a cash cow right now in front of me. I'm able to just pretty much just hit the slot machine and keep winning, keep hitting the big jackpot every day. And I want to risk him against certain fighters? Of course he's not going to do that, because as much of a fan of a boxing as that promoter might be, at the end of the day, he's more concerned about his business. The fighter himself is going to have to put that foot forward and say, salute to the promoter. I appreciate what you've done for me, but this fight is a fight that I need to happen. I need to happen next or whenever it needs to happen. And I thought that was real interesting because people are really getting upset with fighters calling fighters out. And it's just like, I don't understand how you plan on getting the best fights. Keyshawn Davis
exactly
rights to know that he's going to be sitting on a WBO championship belt. That's what he thinks is going to happen when he fights against Dennis Berinchyk. I think a lot of the boxing space agrees with that. And he's going to be there amongst other champions, including Gervonta Tank Davis. Why wouldn't he go after the big fish? If the big fish is in my division, the face of boxing is in my division, I'm going to have a belt in the same division as this guy. Why wouldn't I call him out? Why wouldn't I? I mean, you would look crazy. And of course, any social media he does, any interview he does, any journalist that gets in front of him, they're going to automatically ask him, how does he pair himself up with the best fighter in his division? Because he's about to get on a belt. He's becoming a star. And he has to answer the question. And he can't be all humble about it, like, hey, man, I know. He's letting you know I'm going to beat his ass. He don't want no problems with me. I will beat his ass. I will beat anybody's ass up in this division. That's what I want to see from all my fighters. Period.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Facts.
That's what I mean. Every single fighter in the game. I don't care. What Keyshawn Davis is doing is what I want to see from every single fighter in the game. And as far as him being a prospect, he's not a prospect. That's nonsense. Why? Because he has 12 fights? Brother, he's about to fight for a championship in the division. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. He's well within his right, and I'm happy he's spitting it the way he's spitting it. I'm happy he's keeping his foot on Tank's neck. No disrespect to Tank. Respect to Tank 100% for what he does. But that's the position you're in. You're a champion. The best is going to want to fight you. And he put on a performance on Friday night that he'd been crazy not to call out Tank Davis after that performance. It'd have been a waste of a great performance for him not to capitalize out of all that he accomplished that week, with Gustavo coming in overweight, with the way he stopped Gustavo in that second round, with all the drama that came behind with Tank and him on a social media space. How would he have a performance like he just did and not end that performance in the ring by shouting out God first and then calling out Tank second? You heard?
Wow. Yes. And to add to that, Clay, and I know you want to keep, you really don't want to stay on this topic too long, right? But yo, why is it that the same people that, and I'm saying general, like fans, right? Same fans of boxing, because I'm going to put this out there. I like Tank Davis. I think he's an excellent talent. And believe it or not, I don't think none of these guys beat him. I'm saying it now. Only person I think gives him a threat, y'all know who that is. And if you don't know, I'll say that later for my brother, so he don't free smoke. That's Devin Haney. I think he's the only guy that can beat him straight up without any questions. And everybody thinks I'm crazy for saying that. It's cool. Everybody has their opinions, right? But let's put it this way. What's going on with Tank is, and the fans is, they're the same guys that was calling out Canelo for Benavidez calling him out and him not taking the fight, talking about he chicken, he's scared, he ducking, he this. But then when the shoe is on their guy, when he gets that opportunity, and he's not that guy that really goes and talks. So we respect what Tank does. We respect Tank not really being an altercationist and all that, and not, you know what I mean, doing his little Twitter beefs and getting off and hopping off. We respect that. But all that extra, you know what I mean? My man ain't making enough money. My man ain't having enough fights. This guy out here clout chasing, and this guy just want to fight Tank because Tank got a fight coming up. Like, bro, I haven't heard the most ridiculous excuses ever in my life for one fighter to fight another fighter. This is getting ridiculous, redundant, and really silly. So who was supposed to fight this guy? Who was supposed to fight Tank? Who? If we say Brian Norman, Brian Norman deserved to fight. Oh, this guy ain't making enough money. What did Brian Norman make? Brian Norman, I mean, this guy didn't have enough fans. Okay, what fans Brian Norman has? Let's be honest. Because nobody knew who Brian Norman was last week. Nobody knew who Hector Garcia was, Luis Garcia was the week before that. Nobody even knew who Pitbull was. You know what I mean? Unless you're real true boxing fans, nobody really knew these guys. So why are we making a million excuses why people ain't saying nothing? But the only person that hasn't made an excuse was the man himself, Tank Davis, that said yes, nay, or no. Come on, man. We doing too much. We speaking for people like like I said, like we the man's baby mama, bro. Not we, but y'all. I mean, y'all acting like y'all got his kids. Like he owe y'all child support. Like, yeah, I need to speak up for him. He my bad. He my guy, bro. He out here doing what he's supposed to do. That is crazy, bro. It is crazy.
Yeah,
Relax. Relax. It's all good. If the fight happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's on their part. And I get what you're saying about the fight, the promoters doing what they need to do with the fight, Clay. Straight up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? The politics of boxing and sports in general are always going to be there, but I think everybody has to play their role. That's all. I think the fans need to play their role, and I think our role is to make the best fights. We're here to cheer on the best fights, push for the best fights. When we see a great fight that can be lined up, we should all come together and cheer it on and say that's what we want to see. That's what lets the promoters know that the fight's going to sell. That's what lets them know that they're going to pack out the building. That's what lets the fighters know on how they open up and blow up their own market value. They start to feed into the algorithm what the fans want. And when the fans aren't feeding that algorithm, when they're feeding it with, you don't need to fight him either. You don't need to fight him either. They're not going to fight him, bro. They're not, because you have certain fighters in the game that are just going to push for the legacy regardless. They're going to see the challenge and go for the hardest challenge. But most fighters are going to push for what they think the people want, as far as, and not what the people want as far as pleasing the fans, but what the people want as far as what are the people who are paying for boxing willing to pay for. You know what I'm saying? And when you put it out there like that, it makes it difficult. It gets the attention of a Turki Alalshikh to put money behind a big fight. I'm like, damn, they want that fight a lot. All right, well, you know what? Send an offer to that fighter, send an offer to that fighter. We're going to offer him big paydays to make this big fight. Or it might put the fighter in position to be like, oh, that's really who y'all want to see me. If you're really confident in yourself, the fighter should respond to it. But it is what it is, right? I don't want to hang on too long onto the subject, but I did want to address it just because I'm seeing a lot more disvaluing, discrediting of the fight. I see Coach Kenny went out there and completely deflected. In my opinion, he deflected the Keyshawn Davis putting the pressure on Gervonta Tank Davis to Andy Cruz. Why? You know what I mean? What is? You're not a promoter for Andy Cruz. You're not a representation for Andy Cruz in any kind of way. Why are you putting Andy Cruz into a conversation when this fighter straight up called out your fighter? You know what I mean? No, you should be doing. What do you mean you should be doing? You're not my manager. You're not Andy Cruz's manager. You're the manager of Gervonta Tank Davis. I mean, not the manager. You're the trainer. That's another interesting part, right? You're the trainer of Gervonta Tank Davis. You're either speaking we're going to assume that whenever you're speaking, that you're speaking in the interest of Gervonta Tank Davis, that you're representing Gervonta Tank Davis's best interest, right? So that being said, if you're steering Keeshawn Davis away from Tank Davis, then it looks like you're representing Tank Davis's best interest, and his best interest may be not getting in the ring with Keyshawn Davis. Right? Maybe that's what's really going on. Maybe you're representing Gervonta Tank Davis's best interest, and his best interest from you being his trainer, knowing him in a personal way that none of us know him. Maybe you're understanding something and you're highlighting something, and maybe his best interest is not to have Keyshawn Davis in front of him. Outside of that, what other reason would there be to completely deflect and send that kid in another direction? And as far as I'm concerned, in the Andy Cruz Keyshawn Davis conversation, if anybody's interested, yeah, it's a fight that will happen down the line. But without a doubt, Keyshawn Davis is in another space. He's at a higher level than Andy Cruz, and he would 100% be looking backwards and moving backwards to fight Andy Cruz right now at this moment, because he's in the conversation to fight for a title. He's in the conversation to get into the conversation of unifications with some of the biggest fighters in the space. Andy Cruz just coming off of his performance with Antonio Moran, where he did stop him, but he also got buckled. He got hit. He has things he needs to work on as well, as far as transitioning from the amateur space into the professional space. He's still considered a prospect on a lot of people's list. Why would Keyshawn Davis go back and fight Andy Cruz right now when he could let Andy Cruz build his own value up? Maybe he gets a title, or maybe he builds himself up into some sort of mandatory position where he fights for a title. There's way more money, way more attention. It makes more sense for him to fight Andy Cruz. He doesn't need to fight Andy Cruz right now. But I'll tell you what, man, after he fights Dennis Berinchyk, and if he wins that fight, which a lot of us are anticipating he does, and he picks up that WBO title, oh yeah, he has legitimate rights to challenge any champion in that division. And as a boxing fan, I feel like he needs to challenge, and I want him to challenge for other belts in that division without a doubt, there should be no conversation of Andy Cruz at that point. Now, I also want to segue from there and go into the next conversation, which is, it's part of the conversation, which is Shakur Stevenson, right? Shakur Stevenson is definitely part of this conversation because we know that Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis have a date at some point in time to meet each other. Shakur has confirmed it on multiple interviews that he knows that fight's going to happen. The boxing space has embraced and pushed for that fight to happen. But now, in the crossroads where his brother, and not bloodline wise, right, but fraternal brother, is in the same division, making a lot of moves in the division, and both these guys have gone on record to say that, listen, we don't want to fight each other. Well, not only do we not want to fight each other, because not wanting to fight each other is one part. You could not want to fight each other, but they're adamant that they're not going to fight each other, which, as a boxing fan, because we don't care about your personal relationship as far as y'all being brothers. As a boxing fan, it gets in the way of what we want to see, right? Which is title unifications. We want to see we want to see fighters who are chasing undisputed in the division, and we want to see the best fight the best. So Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis being in the same division, Keyshawn potentially looking like he's about to pick up one of the titles in the division, you got to ask yourself questions. At what point do you draw the line in the sand and say, listen, man, I love you. You know what I mean? You're somebody I hold dear to my heart. I love your children. I love your wife. You love my wife. We're family. We sit down and broke bread together. We laugh it up. At what point do you put that to the side and say, listen, we're also in the same division and business comes first? And Keyshawn Davis, your nickname is the businessman. What kind of business is that to not be ready to do whatever you have to do, become undisputed? What do you think about this whole entire relationship right now between Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson? How should it be ironed out? And ultimately, if they don't fight each other, what's the ultimate solution that's going to not only keep them happy by not fighting each other, but us as a fan base get to see what we want to see in the fights?
Perfect point. So I'm gonna stare to this other guy again. I remember this guy about 3 years ago who was close to not only Tank Davis, he was close to Shakur Stevenson, he was also close to Keyshawn. And that guy decided to put all that love aside to move into the ways to get titles and defend his belts. And that man said, I'm coming out here and I'm gonna fight and call out whoever I want. And if you guys want to come fight me, we'll fight, right? Unfortunately, some of the fights didn't, none of those fights resonated. And that was Devin Haney. Devin Haney put all that aside. He put all that friendship, that love aside. And people started hating him for it because he said, look, we have to fight. That's what our jobs are. This is what we got to do, right? So now let's move a little forward, because I heard some ramblings about why can't Key and Shakur fight? They should fight. Let me tell you something. We're getting a whole Klitschko madness right here. They're gonna hold up the division for what? Because they friends? They close friends? That is crazy, insane, and silly. Now look, we sat here just talking a whole lot of stuff for Keyshawn, but now it's time to turn the page and kick him down a little bit, bro. Like, look, we're gonna stomp you out with these Tims, because you shouldn't be sitting there talking about you ain't fighting your brother. I'm sorry, that's just whack, bro. First of all, you're not really truly brothers. Y'all friends, and y'all can be friends after the fight. Y'all telling me y'all sportsmanship and love for the game is that much that y'all gonna hate each other if y'all get into the ring and one lose? Listen, that's why they got rematches. You know what I mean? That's why you have that's why you have different divisions. You don't want to fight each other. One of them gain weight, get out the way. That's it. But we have too much of this competition amongst them, and they're both great competitors, right? They all want the top of the competition, the fruits of the loins, right? But what are they doing? They running from each other, bro, and it's crazy. And I not literally mean they're running, but they're definitely not trying to fight each other. And I think that's just insane, Clay. I just don't understand why. Like I said, I had the Charlo say that they would fight each other. I had Earl Smith say he would fight Jamel. And they were cool. You talk about cool, but they had the same trainer. Y'all ain't even got the same trainer. They had the same trainer. And he was like, how this training situation gonna go? Earl said, I don't really care, man. Derek in my corner. That's literally what he said right at the time. So this goes to show you, Clay, that sometimes you get into these situations with these fighters and they don't want to fight each other, or they know each other so well that they don't feel that it's worth getting in the ring with each other because somebody's going to get embarrassed. So they know something we don't know. And I think that's what it is in that case.
Yeah. I mean, look, Salute to Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson. If you guys aren't going to fight each other, that's your business, right? But yeah, as a fan, we don't benefit off of that, and I'm sure both of them can relate to the fact that the boxing space is going to push back at the idea of them not fighting each other based on a relationship that they have for each other. Because I mean, you look at Errol Spence and the Charlo and Jermell Charlo, and he's made it clear he'll fight any of them, right? And they seem to still be friends, but you never know. I do think though, at some point, this could become a little messy because they are in the same division. And I think another question is, if you guys aren't chasing undisputed, what are you doing? At some point, somebody's going to need to concede to the fact that they're either going to need to move out of the division or they're going to have to agree. They're going to have to fight each other. And it looks like if their friendship is on the line, that's sad. You know what I'm saying? But it makes you see why fighters like Gervonta Tank Davis and Devin Haney say, I have no friends. You know what I mean? If you're in my division, we ain't friends. And I understand where that comes from. If we're going to fight each other, it is what it is. There's a certain maturity that's got to be there to be able to deal with that. When Terrence Crawford fought Sean Porter, you know what I mean? They had a friendship there. There was an understanding, but they were able to, right after the fight, I can remember Sean Porter bringing Terrence Crawford onto his own show after losing that fight and literally interviewed Terrence Crawford about the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think inside of like 2 weeks, he was on the show interviewing a guy who just beat him, ultimately stopped him in a fight. The maturity was there for it to be done. Shakur and Keyshawn are young, right? Keyshawn's like 24. Shakur's like 27, something like that. I don't know what the age disparity is, but they're young guys. But, you would think that the OGs around them might speak to them and say, listen, man, you might want to reconsider. This is part of the game that you guys are in. You're in the same division. It's going to look crazy, both of y'all holding belts in the division, and just putting your foot down that you'll never fight each other for no matter what amount of money is what that's what Shakur said. It didn't matter what the money was. It's not worth their relationship. I'm like, damn, that's deep. Why is their relationship on the line? So now Shakur is going to have to sit there and deal with both these guys now. The boxing space wants to see both of them fight Tank Davis. Naturally, Tank Davis's team is going to sit there and push for them to fight each other or fight other fighters. They're going to do that just off the strength of a good deflection and off the strength of a more drama as far as building up, because they know if they fight each other, they're going to build up the market value of whoever the winner of that fight is. That just benefits Tank at the end of the day to fight that winner, more money in his pocket. So you guys are in the division causing a lot of commotion. And ultimately, I think it will go backwards and hurt them potentially if they don't figure this out. Like maybe Keyshawn should just leave,
right?
Or maybe Tank or Shakur should just leave and go to 140. I don't know, right? So we got to see how to put it together. Let me just shout out.
Okay, go ahead.
Hold on. Shout out to Darrell Big G Galloway in the building. Always showing love. The Queen, Nick J. How you doing, sister? How you doing, Queen? They ain't that damn young. They both have kids. Grow the F up and get your ass in the ring and make that money. Shout out to the Queen. You're right. You know what I mean?
That was in response to Mr. Ishmael, which I thought was a good statement. What he said, yeah. I mean, mentally, I think they are a little bit, Nick J. I think their maturity is what he's talking about, and I think that could be the issue. But you know what? You're right, though. At the end of the day, money talks, right? This is a business, and that comes first. Salute to the Queen.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, they're young in their mind state, right? They're really young when you think about your mentality when you was 20, 21 years old, 24 years old. Who knows what they're focused on? They're still young. And a lot of these boxers get in that age group, you got to think they're not growing up, because they're kind of stunted in their growth, a lot of them, because they've dedicated their whole lives to boxing. The only thing they're mature in is that skill set that they've brought together in the ring. Personally, their experiences, they're managed by their parents, they're managed, and they're still in that young stage. They're able to bust a nut and make a baby, but you know what I'm saying? That, I mean, I agree with you though, 100%, but I do think there's a certain amount of more maturity needed for these guys to be able to deal with this situation in a way that benefits them and their families in the long run. Like Mike Tyson said, if they really look at it for what it is, let's get each other paid. Let's put this fight together. Right. Maybe not right now, because not now. I could see, listen, we got a relationship, so let's make it the biggest fight possible. Let's clean out the division. Let's both of us have all the belts, fight each other, you know what I'm saying, for undisputed or something like that, and make it a big deal. But you guys never fighting each other, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's going to hurt you guys' brand in the long run because you guys are right next to each other. Even if Keyshawn Davis or Shakur Stevenson, one of them decide to move up to 140, at some point, the other guy's going to move to 140, and we're going to be right back having this conversation. Same thing going up to 147. We're going to forever be dealing with this situation. This is going to be like rinse. You know what I'm saying? Rinse,
wash, repeat.
You know what I'm saying?
Wash, repeat. Yeah.
Right. So they got to.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man, and like I said, you smacked the nail right on the head. And shout out to Mr. Ishmael because that was a great statement. That was a great way of putting it.
Shout out to everybody in the building as well, yo, guys.
Yes. Here for boxing. Yes, this is the building.
If you haven't hit the likes yet, if you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button, man. Shout out to everybody showing love in the building. We got 48 people watching right now. Don't be in the background chilling. Participate in the experience in the process. Let's help the channel.
Motel 909. Shout out
and hit the like button.
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. Like you said, let's not stay on this too much longer. I do understand where everybody's coming from. Listen, it's a tale of two cities in this sense, man. Sometimes, I mean, how many brothers? I hate to put this out there. How many boys steal each other's girls because she's a trophy? You know what I mean, how many times that happened? Vice versa. How many girls steal each other's men because he's a trophy? So friends have broken rules before. So let's not get it twisted. You know what I mean? Like you said, emotions have to be dealt with. They have to be mature enough to understand that it is a relationship. And like you said, they all getting paid at the end of the day. Let's make this bread. Because I believe when you made that Mike Tyson quote, Mike Tyson fought that guy twice that he was buddies with, and they made money on that fight, man. He helped his brother out. So, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you can always help your brother out, man. You can always sit there and make sure. And y'all just treat it like y'all on the playground, man, having fun. Y'all fighting over a ball or something. It happens. It happens. Let's let that shit go. Let's move forward. Let's be real with it. For real. Let's just get all these fights.
And it's going to be interesting because you mentioned about taking each other's girls and girls taking each other's men and shit. And ultimately, Shakur Stevenson has built a lot of he's been building this up. The fight between him and Tank has been building up for years, man. People have been talking about Tank and Shakur ultimately meeting at some point when Shakur was down there at 126, 130. You know what I mean? They were just waiting on him to get in a division with Tank because they wanted to see that fight happen. And it's built up even more to this day. And, there's a lot of risk dealing with Keeshawn Davis arrival, the arrival of Keyshawn Davis as a top player in the division. There's a lot of risk in evading or trying to ignore his presence because he is looking like he's gathering some momentum behind him. He's becoming a bigger star, and that fight Friday night really just elevated him so high on both sides of the argument, as far as not sides of the argument, but both fighters, as far as Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis is concerned. Shakur Stevenson allowing not really building up his market value. Keyshawn Davis can literally go past him, and that part alone could build up animosity between the two brothers. I know that Shakur has spoken about it, like saying that, I want my brother to be, that he would celebrate him. He wants his brother to be as big as possible, but easier said than done at times. We'll see how you deal with it because Keyshawn is getting there, and you not fighting him, it can start to adversely affect the relationship anyway, just off the strength of people being in your Twitter. Shakur loves his Twitter. People pushing back at him, ultimately saying that he's scared of Keyshawn, that he's not better than Keyshawn, that Keyshawn's better than him, that he's the best in the division. And then you align that and compound that with Keyshawn actually getting the recognition from the boxing space by earning accolades, unifying titles. And then if he gets his Tank Davis fight before Shakur Stevenson, let's just say, for argument's sake, I know the Tank fans in the building are going to shoot at me, but if Keyshawn does knock Tank out, well, then where's the value of Shakur's payday to fight Tank Davis at that point, right? So there's so many different ways to look at it. They are going to have to deal with this one way or the other. There's no evading it. It's there. The elephant is in the room now. Keyshawn Davis is one of those guys at 135. Shakur Stevenson is one of those guys at 135. Tank Davis is one of those guys. The elephant's in the room. If Tank ignores Keyshawn and doesn't want to fight Keyshawn, if Keyshawn gets a title and he's in that division, he's constantly calling Tank out, and Tank's not picking up that fight. He's not aiming to unify. He's already said that he would love to be undisputed and that he was going to be chasing undisputed down. Even if Tank were to get up right now and leave 135 and go to 140, which is a rumor that the Schofields put out there saying that that's what they heard, that he was actually entertaining vacating that WBA title and going up to 140. which I think the boxing space would embrace. I would embrace it because I know it's way more competitive up there for him. But I would also have to say that now 135 looks like there's a lot of competition there for you. So if you were to leave 135 and go to 140, that could raise eyebrows and put extra pressure on Tank Davis in a negative way. Keeshawn Davis is here. He's the elephant in the room, and you guys are going to have to address him at one point, one way or the other. I don't think there's any getting around the topic of Keeshawn Davis right now. He's going to be here for a minute. Going into 2025, I feel like Keeshawn Davis probably going to be one of the most anticipated fighters going into that year. They're going to want to see what he's going to do next. The more victories he gets, the more accolades he gets, the more pressure it's going to put on his peers. In this case, Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis. Let me look into the chat a little bit here. Let's pick up what's going on. There's been a lot of engagement here, and I know we've been kind of talking and kind of ignoring everybody. I see Ross Clott, him saying, like most women, Kira loves social media. Yeah, it's Orlando. That's a fact. That's a fact. Let's see, for Keyshawn to have 10,000 show up from home, grown fan base within the 7 cities is amazing. Is amazing, especially in his first headline fight. Yeah, Mr. Ishmael, not only is it amazing, and I agree with you 100%, brother. Not only is it amazing of what he did, but the performance, it's like everything aligned, right? It's one thing for Top Rank to gamble on Keeshawn Davis and say, listen, we're going to put the bag behind him. We're going to, they pulled out they did everything for him. I mean, the marching band, the entrance, the drama. I'm not going to keep going through it, right? All this stuff happened, but it could have culminated into Keyshawn getting knocked out, right? Or it could have culminated into Keyshawn being in a super competitive fight for 12 rounds and kind of showing holes in his game. Although he got a victory, he didn't get to capitalize on it that much. Very similar to, let's say, like Jaron Ennis's performance this weekend. No, it culminated to a second-round knockout of a fighter who's a come-forward puncher, Argentinian, who's never been stopped, never even been dropped before. He knocked him out in the second round on that event at the same time. It literally was just like stars. You know how stars are created in space? It's like an explosion creates a star, right? An explosion happened Friday night. A supernova, right? A supernova explosion happened on Friday night, and Keeshawn Davis just came out on top. He's literally just undeniable right now. Undeniable. Only a huge loss. I don't know. At this point, Bob Arum has a star in his hand. He has a potential face of boxing in the creation in his hand. He's going to handle him with white gloves. He's going to give him those opportunities to become unified. Keeshawn Davis has a lot more say in his career at this point. Things are just going to change for him. They're just going to change for him. Let's see here. There was another one here I wanted to get at.
Was Motown.
Was it Motown?
I believe so.
Happens with Key get a belt in 25. In 25, we going to see what happens when Key get a belt. 100%. 100%. All right, let's keep moving on the conversation. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. Hey, guys, listen. We got like 40 people right now. I don't know what the likes are looking like, but I hope the likes are getting closer to looking like how many people been in the building. We've had a lot of people in the building. They just chilling and not
smashing that button.
Smashing that button. Don't be weird. It's a free thing to do. Hit the like button, man. Show some love. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you know, guys, I always encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you're getting alerts when we're dropping this content. Very important. Carl Brown, we are not dropping the link yet, brother. That's not what we're doing right now. So I appreciate you. Maybe a little later for stay up, stay close. It might drop a little later, but not quite yet. Now, I wanted to get into another topic as well. What was it that I wanted to speak on? We talked about Brian Norman Sr., right? And talking his ish. We talked about Keeshawn Davis and talking his ish, keeping his foot on Tank's neck, right? And Tank, you know, we didn't really speak about Tank canceling his social media, which I thought was weird. I don't know how people are looking at that situation. I thought
he always does that.
This is like, why though? Why after talking all that message y'all were talking about? Why? So I don't know. It just looks bad. It doesn't look good.
Because Tank is known to be doing that, especially when he starts preparing for a fight. When something's in locks, he shuts everything down and he goes away. Mm-hmm. But I get it how it looks like for somebody that really doesn't pay attention to Tank's page, because I don't know if you do or not a lot. Like I don't either. I'm not really following Tank. Like it comes across my Twitter account every once in a while, but I don't follow Tank's account like that. You know what I mean? Something pops up, somebody usually reposts it, and I see it. Yeah, he usually shuts down. I think his last 3 or 4 fights, he shuts down, especially when, like I said, when he goes into training or he'll deactivate his account, or when he feels it's time for him to get off and stop talking to people, he does it. So, hey, you know what I mean? It is what it is. He's serious about something, and that's a good thing. I hope for the boxing world, boxing fans, and let's keep it moving, man. Let's see what happens. But Clay just wants to hear Tank talk.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see him, and that's another thing, and that's what I wanted to talk about, right? I wanted to talk a little bit about Tank Davis as far as, you know, what part is he going to play in this chapter in his career? Are we done? Like, in other words, do we have to make our decision on who Tank Davis is based off of what he's done up to this point, right? If he's not making the biggest fights in this chapter of his career, he has his career in his hands, right? And I've told you guys already, it's not, then everybody's not going to wait around. You heard, I thought Keyshawn, another profound thing that Keyshawn said was, listen, I don't need to fight you. And I think that's interesting, right? Because it's not just Keyshawn's take. There's a lot of other fighters in the division. I think a lot of the boxing fans, a lot of the Tank fans have to admit that it's been a little weird now, because a lot of fighters who were calling Keyshawn out last year, calling Gervonta out last year and the year before, they're not necessarily calling him out like that, right? This year you had Floyd Schofield call him out. You had Keyshawn Davis call him out. Shakur Stevenson hasn't called him out, but you know his name's in the conversation. Even De Los Santos's team has called him out to a degree, but not a lot of fighters have been calling out Tank Davis. And, you know, once you get to that point to understand that calling him out doesn't work and you have to wait on him to send an offer, a fighter's going to move on with their career, right? They're going to go ahead and make the next best thing happen. I see the GOAT right here said that, let's see him get that belt, then fight Andy Cruz. Well, I'm going to say like this, the GOAT, the level of fighter that Keyshawn Davis is becoming, and once he gets that belt, if he fights Andy Cruz, the whole space is going to know he had to fight Andy Cruz because Gervonta wouldn't fight him. It's not, no matter how you paint it, it's going to be a bad look. You know what I'm saying? Keyshawn is calling out Tank Davis. That's who he's saying he wants to fight. The boxing space has embraced Keyshawn Davis and said, listen, we want to see Keyshawn Davis and Tank Davis. So to deflect that energy and that momentum and the story behind that fight coming together, being that Tank already has participated in a social media back and forth with Keyshawn Davis, if Keyshawn has to move on and fight the next best fighter, which he will do, because he'll have to do that, but it's going to look bad on Tank that you guys ultimately in so many ways have turned down a fight with Keyshawn Davis, who everybody wants to see you fight. Now he's had to fight these other fighters. It's just, we just going to see what ended up happening, bro. You know what I mean? I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I'll tell you what, man, as far as a boxing fan is concerned, this is must-see fight, must-see boxing, unless you're not interested in. And now, listen, anybody who feels like sharing in the chat and tell me you're not interested in seeing Keyshawn Davis fight Tank Davis, then listen, I'll respect your opinion. I'm not going to push on you to want to see something you don't want to see, but I got a feeling, just like this election that went by, a lot more people are interested in one part of this conversation than we understand. You know what I'm saying? A lot more people are interested in this conversation. The whole country looked red. That map looked red this time around. A lot of people thought it wasn't going to look like that. You know what I'm saying? But the country may be as unified. The country may be more unified than it's ever been in a long time. And so might boxing be more unified than it's been in a long time. And that unification can look like a lot of fighters who you guys celebrate being outside in the cold, as people are becoming more and more exhausted with the direction boxing is going into, more exhausted by not seeing the fights that they want to see, and more embracing great fighters who look like they're going to give them the fights they want to see. Take that however you want to look at it. But you combine Turki's presence, you combine people with the attitude of Keyshawn Davis, people with the attitude of David Benavidez, who got in front of a promoter and said, nah, I'm not fighting Jesse Hart, I'm fighting David Morrell. People who are actively making the best fights are starting to get embraced, not only by the Turki Alalshikhs of the world as far as financing the fights, but also the fans are starting to understand, and they want to see the competition step it up. So if you're not going to get in line your goals with what the fans want, you might end up outside in the cold. I think Tank Davis is in a position right now to where he needs to really think about that, because he's been used to kind of moving a certain way, but the boxing space did not embrace Lamont Roach and Tank Davis fighting. You know what I'm saying? Nope. Push back on it to the point to where it looks like the investors, the people who are involved in building the fight, it just looks like from the outside looking in that they may have taken a step back and like, damn, this fight don't look like it's going to sell. The boxing space is pushing back now. Take that into consideration.
And not to mention that you're seeing other divisions unifying and stepping up and fighting each other and bringing it back to boxing, getting away from this Floyd Mayweather era, the money era of just getting these big checks and thinking that's cool. So I can fight Joe Schmo off the truck from Home Depot and get a bag. You know what I mean? I can go pick somebody up that's in another division and get a bag. I can bring somebody down and get a bag. Yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? I understand that used to work, but right now we're in a situation where people want to be the best, and they want to be the best. And it's this younger generation of boxers. They want to be the best, and we're too busy looking at what's old instead of accepting what's coming, and not realizing what's going on. And pause on that, frequent flyer. I know you was going to say. So yeah, man. Like at the end of the day, we got to see what's coming forward in the future for all these fighters and what they're trying to do and what they're going for accolades now. And they're going for legacy. They don't care about this bag as much. The money's going to come. You're the biggest star in the game. Guess what you're going to get, Clay?
Yeah.
Cash, money, right? You're going to get that payday. If you make it to that stage, that's the reason why it used to be the way it was, because people used to fight up to that tier. Now it's like, hey, I just want the bag. I want to drive a Lambo too. I want to be the rap star looking dude in the ring. I want to act like I'm a ghetto superstar. Yo, get over yourselves. And then y'all support that. Like y'all whack for just supporting that, man. Listen, let's just support them in the ring. Let's just be their fans for them fighting in the ring. Let's be a boxing fan first, then the fan of the person that you want to see win the fight. That's it. And if you like that person, you want to see the fight. Matter of fact, I got a question for the gentlemen in the chat that were saying that about the Keyshawn thing. Who do you want to see Tank fight? And if because I always hear, oh, he can fight whoever he wants. But if he can fight whoever he wants, then why can't he fight Keyshawn? Damn.
You don't want to fight him. Hunter Young said he was responding to Mr. Ishmael, but I want to comment on this right here, because this is also part of what I wanted to speak on today, and it goes and aligns right with it, man. He said, I don't think Tank cares about legacy. Once he retires, he said, F boxing. It's a different mindset for different people. And I think that's a profound statement, Hunter Young. And I really want to dive a little deeper into that statement, because I am personally getting into a space to where I'm ready to leave Tank alone. I don't know how the boxing space is going to move for themselves. Everybody has their own decision to make when it comes to this, and I want to go into why I'm saying I'm close to leaving Tank alone. I am close to leaving him alone because if he's not interested in legacy, and I don't mean leave him alone as far as not watching him fight no more. I'm not talking about leave him alone as far as not speaking on his fights. I'm talking about as far as pushing him to chase legacy, to chase greatness, to fight the best. I'm pretty much almost there to where I'm willing to allow him and his fans to have that part of boxing, right? He's definitely serving a purpose, right? He's giving exciting fights. But when we're talking about world championship boxing, and we're talking about the foundation of legacy and what we as fans benefit from seeing that, if Tank is not willing to participate in that process, then we might need to leave him alone. He might end up putting himself as a high level Jake Paul, right? Not as far as skill set, but as far as when I watch him or when I think about him, I don't think about legacy anymore. I'm going to stop pushing, because at times it becomes not even worth fighting, you know what I'm saying, with fans who want to sit there and argue about how Tank should not have to fight somebody. How every time you ask him to fight somebody, the question comes, why I'm not asking the other person who's trying to fight Tank to fight somebody else. You're right. There's an idea in our mind that legacy and that the best fights that could happen in the division involve Tank Davis. But there also has to be a certain point to where we come to the understanding that if he's just not going to, if this is not what is important to him, if this is not aligning with what he has planned for his future, if his biggest amount of money is not involved with the legacy fights, if he has other ways to make the biggest amount of money, then ultimately we have to also be grown and mature enough to accept a grown man's decision to move in the direction that he wants to move with his career. So I'm getting close to that point to where, as far as the attention I'm giving Tank Davis, as far as the demands I'm putting on Tank Davis as a face of boxing, I am going to start falling back off of that. And I think the biggest danger that Tank can go through is entertain. The biggest risk he can take is not only the boxers moving on and saying, okay, that fight's not going to happen, let's move on to our next best fight. But I think the fan base moving on with that mentality is also something that he needs to entertain and take into consideration. And maybe he has already taken that into consideration. And if that's the case, then it's okay. There's so much boxing going on. And I say that respectfully. There's a lot of boxing going on. I mean, more than we can speak about. We will end this show today at some point, and we will not talk about a large portion of what's going on in boxing because we're so consumed with pushing fighters who don't even want the fights that we're asking them to go for, and we make a whole load of content on it, and it doesn't end up in fights. So at some point, if what we're doing is not ending up in the fights that we want to see, if it's not ending up in the legacy that we want to see, then we also have to be mature enough to walk away from that and understand and respect another grown man's right to make a decision for himself. And we need to move on with what we love, which is boxing. And I always tell you guys, it's boxing first over any boxer. The world championship boxing over any one particular boxer, right? And look, there it is right there. T. Orlando says, Tank, 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 Tank. I agree with you, brother. We might be barking up a tree. We might be barking at the moon, right? Might be dogs barking at the moon, and maybe Tank is just out of our reach. And if he doesn't care, if that's not part of his game plan, then all of us have decisions to make for ourselves on how we're going to deal with it. I'm close to making mine, and I don't say that with any reluctance at all. You know what I'm saying? I'm very close to making my decision.
Right, and for Keyshawn to be 12-0 and have a fight with Tank, so what? Madrimov was 10-0 fighting. He had a title. If Keyshawn gets a title at 12-0, does that not put him in the picture? I mean, and for us to say and make a comparison, shout out to Bubs Boxing. I mean, you said that Tank fights he fought Frank Martin, and why can't Shakur and Keyshawn fight? They can fight. We just push for that. We literally just push for that. So I don't understand that question. And I don't think Frank Martin is somebody that we would say, okay, he is that superstar that Tank needs to be in the ring with, that Tank's going to give us what he wants. Yes, he was supposed to be that stick back fighter that got stage fright. Unfortunately, we all seen it live on stage before the fight happened. So stage fright happened to that guy. So guess what? When he said he ain't afraid of the big lights, the guys calling him out. I'm pretty sure when a new kid moved to your school, he had no fights on his resume in that school, and he came and seen you, and he was like, "Yo, I want to fight you," and you got all the smoke. Oh yeah, we're gonna fight. Oh yeah, we're gonna fight. Did the bully always, or the guy that was tough? Did he say, "Oh, you just got here. I need to not mess with you. You need to go build your resume up there with Carl, Chad, and Brian. Matter of fact, once you beat all them, then go fight Chris, Michael, and Joe, and then come see me." No, he ain't say that. Yo, y'all be wilding with these excuses and these reasons, bro. I don't get it. It's crazy. Much love to y'all though, but hey, if that's what it takes for y'all to understand and get it, then let that happen, man. We can rock with that too.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I definitely want to share my thoughts on that because yeah, boxing moves on. And you know, I do have a little bit of fear that boxing may have to move on without Tank Davis achieving his best, without him being challenged by the best, without his legacy, you know, without us as fans seeing him fight the fights we want to see. It just looks like we may have to accept that. If he fights Lamont Roach is the next fight, so be it.
So be it.
I'll watch it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to act like I'm not going to watch it. I want to see Tank perform. I want to see, you know what I'm saying, boxing. I will watch a lot fighters less valuable than that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and boycott him, but I am getting to the point where call it discourage, call it disbelief, call it lack of faith, however you want to categorize it. I am getting to the point to where there isn't a certain exhaustion that's starting to settle in